don't think I emailed it to council. And I talked to the chief about this. And
Welcome to the City of Clawson's council meeting for Wednesday, July 5th. This meeting is called to order. Tonight we have a few guests. A few of our guests are from Troop 1094, the Guardian Angels Scouting Troop, and they will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So I will invite you to the microphone. We'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, gentlemen. And I would invite you to please stand for our invocation. Please bow your heads. Father, we ask for your direction and guidance today and all days for the healing of our land, the needs of others, protection for military, and direction for our elected leaders. Guide us with wisdom and understanding. Grant friendships to all of our neighbors. Let us welcome others in need. Amen. Amen. Roll call, please.
Mayor Lubes.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Horton.
Here.
Councilmember Albrecht.
Here.
Councilmember Woolley.
Here.
The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. On the consent agenda tonight are approving the minutes from our last council meeting and approving the purchase of one Ford utility police vehicle. Generally, we purchase vehicles on a schedule so that our vehicles are in top shape and well maintained.
Madam Mayor, I move the consent agenda be approved as listed.
Support.
Any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Horton.
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht.
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley.
Yes.
And Mayor Lubes.
Yes. The next item is consideration of a resolution authorizing our police chief to sign a subscription agreement with Lexipol LLC. So Chief Anderson is here to speak to that.
Madam Mayor, members of council, it's nice to be here tonight and make it through my 32nd 4th of July.
Yes,
so.
we're all glad.
And it was all a good night though that night. Fortunately, I think being a Tuesday, it really had a lot to do with it. So. Anyhow, tonight I'm coming before you. I spoke to this subject at the council session, if you recall. Lexipol is a company that's based in California, but they're nationwide. They're a risk management association, and they have got since 2003, beginning in 2003, they got into the business of making or developing policies and general orders for public safety departments. One of their co-founders, Gordon Graham, is retired from the California Highway Patrol, so he's got a lot of law enforcement experience. What they've done is now they've started expanding out, and recently, well, as of the last couple of years, they did get into Michigan. They moved over because the problem with a lot of times was that you could get policy, but it's no good if it doesn't relate to your state. So they are now making state-specific policies, and currently they have over 3,000 jurisdictions across the country. And I have a list. It's quite an extensive list in Michigan right now, but I think they've been here in Michigan for 2 years now. I'm getting good feedback from people. I've spoke with them considerably about it, their program. What they do is they have a conglomeration of people from various fields, lawyers, people from the public safety department, just general legal counsel, and they look at what current laws are, what current best practices are in law enforcement, and then they write these policies. And a subscription would be, part of the subscription that I'm asking for is we send them a copy of our electronically versions of our current policies. They go through the policies and they look at their policies and they say, and they recommend changes or not changes, this will work and such. So that process is the first part of it. And then after you move forward, then you start developing things. They have several, looking through the list of their policies, they have a lot of policies that we should probably have that we don't have, but we just haven't gotten around to having them. So this is a great program for us to get started in. Mr. Kingsep has reviewed the documentation, and we're going to talk further on the actual contract and the subscription. So we wouldn't sign into it unless it's something that makes sure that we're protected in that legal document. The subscription itself, it's kind of expensive. The initial cost at our budget session, the initial cost for the review for all the time going through it was $4,950. I talked to them, and since from the time that I was preparing for our budget and right now coming on, they've reduced that initial cost down to $2,820 for that initial review. That's a one-time fee where they look at the current policies. And at that time, after that time, the subscription from that point forward is $8,486 a year. They base that on our content, our department size, officers we have, and that's how they judge all their costs. One of the really good things about the program is Gordon Graham, when he was out in the California Highway Patrol, he's a very dynamic speaker. If you ever get a chance to see him speak, he's really good. Anyhow, when he was out there, he said every day is a training day, and he developed a process where he was recognized nationally for coming up with training bulletins every day for the guys. That would be, they do it at roll call, or they do it, and they would focus on low frequency, high cost events. So, like your shootings, your operation of motor vehicles, things that officers don't get involved in very often. But when they do get involved in them, your risk of liability is really high. And any kind of custody deals. So in their program that they developed, they have this training bulletin that's included. Where they go with department specific training scenarios that they develop. When you tell them there's a lot of work in getting this forward, talking about what your individual needs are in your department. So they include these training bulletins, but the electronic version will record the results of the officers being tested on this work. And so you're building a documentation for your training as you go along, and you're also building in a documentation for policy review and for general knowledge of what your general orders, policies, and procedures are, which really, they're there. We write them, but they're no good if we don't train on them, and the guys don't know them and don't remember them because they don't deal with them on a regular basis. So this program also, part of this service, it will give you a smart app where an officer can actually have it on their phone and review it when they're out in the field of what the policy is for this certain thing. They can pull it up on their phone and read it. So it's cutting edge. It's really good. It's moving us toward the state of Michigan. Like I said in our budget hearing, the state of Michigan is moving toward having all agencies in the state be accredited so that they can show that they're best practice. They use best practices, they follow their policies, and they adhere to their policies. And the result is a lot lower risk liability. They found that there's a lot fewer employment issues with violating, if people are doing the right thing in the workplace. There's a lot less issues with officers doing the wrong thing on the road and having a lawsuit. So I look at this as a lot of the other things. It's kind of like an insurance policy for the city, and it may look expensive, the total cost to start with, but when you look at and and I've witnessed these payouts in these lawsuits in the past, and it's more than worth it to develop this program and to have this.
So their review of what we presently have would take into consideration the size of our city?
Yes, and specific issues that address with, what is your rank structure in the department? What is your population served? Everything, the particulars of the city, and they would develop the program based on that.
Is there a program within that would train our officers on mental illness or dealing with mental illness?
We have a mental illness policy right now, a general order dealing with people that have mental incapacity. But they do have a policy, and the good thing about this is that you've got all these legal bean counters that are watching this stuff. They're watching current legislation, and sometimes, when you're trying to develop and keep the current policies, you don't sometimes catch up to having those policies in there until you hear about it through another way. But they have people that are currently monitoring all the court cases, and then they send you. They're not saying that you have to do it, but they send recommendations. They say, this court case came down the pike dealing with search and seizure. This is what we believe, and they take your current policy that you have and they highlight it and say, this would be our recommended change to give you protection.
Well, I know we have drug courts in Oakland County. Macomb County is beginning with mental health courts, so I'm sure that's not far behind in our area. 20% of the population in the United States has a mental illness. So training our officers to deal with mental illness would be an important
right,
goal.
And our officers deal with it. It seems like lately, about every week, we're dealing with issues with that. And the county does have, Oakland County has a diversion program that, if we recognize a mental illness, we can divert them rather than putting them in the criminal justice system.
Right.
Because, quite often that's what they need. They don't need to be locked up in a jail cell. They need to get help. But unfortunately, with our state, we don't have all those facilities for those people to go to. So.
Right. Thank you.
I have one question. What happens if they make a recommendation that we choose not to put in place? Is there any liability in not doing what they recommend?
I think any time that, they would make the recommendation, and that would be something that we would, talk to counsel about, our legal counsel, or counsel if you guys want to hear about it. But, and, there's no obligation for us to make a change, but they make the suggestion for a reason. Maybe something's not applicable here, or not something in the direction we want to go to. That's still our call to do that. There are policies, so we go forward with having the big thing is that you're most up to date with the current standards and practices in the industry.
But your question is a good one, because you look at it from a plaintiff's lawyer standpoint as well as city council standpoint or governmental standpoint. And I think in those instances, if there's a rejection, you always want to have a legal opinion from your own counsel that sets up the rationale on why you're rejecting it. Because that then would be the defense to not adopting that. Also in the agreement, they reference derivative work. And it seems to me, based on the chief's presentation, I'm going to talk to him more in detail tomorrow, that there are documents that we might create ourselves based on information they send that then provides the format. And I want to be certain that if we create those documents, that's our work product. That's our copyright document. I mean, we can give it to them with permission, but it's our document. So there are some issues in there in dealing with copyright and some other clarification on ownership.
And one thing that I've seen in working with this is coming up with, something is the right reason to write something in a policy. But in order to have the most accurate policies, you should have legal standing for it and a reasoning behind that policy. And what they do is they'll footnote through it. This is according to such and such case, like case law, and they'll give you that you can cite to help protect you in a legal liability.
Do any of these recommendations and their policy changes, is that have any impact on our unions? I mean, does the police department union, does any of this come into play during the bargaining?
There may be something, but that's something that, I'm all for letting our union sit down with us like as far as, there's sections in our performance evaluations and such, use of, I'm sure there's going to be policies and sick leave usage, and, things like that we have things in place that we deal with under our current labor contract. And if there was going to be a change with it, it would be a change of working conditions, and we'd have to talk to the whole idea is to get everybody on board with this. And I plan on including as many people as I can in this process. Just to, for one thing, it's very voluminous, it looks like, and another thing, it's good for people to buy into. To know that it's going to protect them as much as it's going to protect us. And you can't send guys out on the street and hold them responsible for things that they don't know that they're supposed to be responsible for. So it's all a good thing, and I think it's going to be a good program as long as Mr. King thinks that the legal documentation is right.
I have a question, but point of clarification. They're basically, this company is going to take everything, all the department's SOPs, all your SOPs, and then they're going to look at them, you see where where there may be a conflict, send back everything highlighted with where they think might be a change. And you said something about a phone app.
Yeah, because all of this is going to be incorporated into an electronic document.
Okay.
And they're using that so that the officers, that's where we've been really struggling. We've been working on it lately. We are working toward that through Sergeant Baus and the other sergeants are working through, but Sergeant Baus is our training officer, so she's working with policies and setting up questions right now that are policy related. So we use a service called Police One through a lot of our training. That's online training, not necessarily policy training, but I guess it's all intermingled. So
are you getting feedback from the officers about the program? Do they know anything about it yet, or is
no?
This...
Before we implement it, it's generally what we do with our policies when we put them out right now. I've got a policy manual about this thick, and every guy or gal is given a copy of it, and we work with things. If there's issues with unions or issues with officers, they can have their input in it, and if it's a good idea, then we'll incorporate that. But most of this stuff is stuff is pretty cut and dry. Is the best practices that you do, and they should be doing it that way. And some things you don't give people an option. I mean, I can't give somebody an option in a Fourth Amendment violation for a search and seizure, or some. I mean, they've got to follow a certain procedure with that. Or if we have our policy dealing with a mentally incapacitated person, there's procedures for dealing with that. It's not, well, what does this guy want to do, or what does this guy? Well, no, we're telling you got to do it this way because this is the best practices.
So you're expecting
we're expecting them to do that.
buy-in.
So there's not, there are some things that you get feedback with that, but a lot of this is policy and procedure of doing things the right way and according to current industry standards. And it goes according to what the Supreme Courts are ruling in different matters. You know what I mean? And when we get those, we have a change of policy. We put it out. Our sergeants sit down with the officers. We have tests that they take for the policy. That's part of this Police One, and they go forward. This is kind of a cleaner way to do it. We're kind of muddling through with not the most precise format, and I think this is going to get us there.
Will Police One will this be replacing the Police One program altogether?
I don't think so. That's something that I've got to work with Sergeant Baus on, because Police One has a lot of really good programs that are stuff that's really, I mean, it's just their training programs, and they're talking about different, like for instance, when we have our shooting instruction, they have programs dealing with lighting a room the proper way, or entry when you're searching a building, or, things that really, you're not going to find them in a policy and procedure or not be right into the weeds with it. So there's a lot of things that, cover versus concealment, all the stuff I had to study up on to pass my test. So it's, we'll evaluate it. If we're not going to, if it's a repetition of what we have, there's no sense in having two things.
And one other question, because Troy does our dispatch, is Troy using this, and will this affect Troy Dispatch using our policies and procedures?
We have our own. We've always had our own separate policies that Troy has a copy of. When we get to this, we'll give their dispatch and their department a copy of our policies. If things change, we'll change those with them. But yeah, Troy has their own policies. We have our own. We've had that since the beginning of our merge for dispatch and jail services. Although, they have things that we had to follow. I mean, if we're using their jail or we're using their dispatch, then, we have to follow their rules. So we developed our policies to combine and coexist with their policies.
Well, I guess this would be one of those examples on if their recommendation is that the Troy policy isn't a recommended policy.
Well, and that could be something that, hey, we're coming into their home there, and we got to do what they want us to do. So that would be something that would be a local decision where I'm sure that, if they see that the local does it a certain way, then that's the way you have to do it.
And any liability would be borne by them.
Yeah, but Troy is really good on keeping up on their policies. Their policy manuals are probably 10 times the size of ours, but they have a policy for everything, and we don't. And I don't want to have a policy for everything, but there's a lot of things that we could use some policies on. For instance, I'm working on policies dealing with drones. That question comes up these days. What do you do with drones? So we're kind of working through the weeds on that, what the best way to handle it is. Where can you use a drone? Where can you not? Do we want our officers going out and shooting one down with a shotgun? Probably not.
That's one opinion.
So anyhow, that's something that, those are current issues that are coming up with technology. An officer stops somebody with a cell phone. What are the rights? What is the best way to, for that officer to see what they're on? That's where you have legal opinions and current state, where you have the people that are in the know, that know the best practices. What are you going to get away with, and what are you going to get sued for with it, for a violation? And I would rather have the part where we can get away with it and not get sued. And I think all of our guys would be the same way, because it's not a fun thing to be sued. So, and I think that's what happens with Lexipol. They say that they have a low rate in lawsuits with people that are using them, because if you're using the best industry standards, based on what the current good practices are in law enforcement, in accordance with what the court rulings say you're supposed to do, you can do that all day long, because that's the way you should be doing business.
And let me just indicate on that, we have had experience where the practice utilized is at an appropriate standard. And the other side might get an expert in who says and pontificates it isn't. If you have something like this, you have more credibility because it is uniform, it is nationwide, it has an expertise base behind it. And that's very important when you get into those issues of experts and credibility.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I do have one question. I hope to keep it brief. And you've alluded to this, Chief. Will this just be added to Sergeant Bouse's her responsibilities, or will this?
No, I want it. Before, I've already talked to Sergeant Bouse about it, and she's eager to work with me on it. I would like to. I worked on the policies right now so far,
okay.
And I want to work on it, but I'm going to need some help.
Okay.
And I think this is a good thing for our command staff to be involved in, because they have to learn the policies, and they have to make sure that the guys are doing this stuff on the road. And what a better way to learn it than to be in the middle of developing it. So, and know the reasons for it. So when a young officer comes forward and says, this is a bunch of garbage. We shouldn't be doing it this way. Well, no, and this is why. Okay, because this is the current legal, standard for it. So that in this day and age, you got to. It's no longer do it because I said you do it. It's a why. So and you explain it, and you have a good reason for it, and that's so. I'd like to get my whole command staff involved in it, but we'll see. That's my plan.
Okay.
So
Yeah, it seems like it could be.
I don't. It's not something that I'm going to dump on Sergeant Bowes because
Okay.
she's got a lot of other stuff she's
Yeah.
doing.
It seems like it could be labor intensive, and I'm just.
It's going to be very labor intensive. That's why I'd say, man, come on aboard. Anybody that wants to help, I can use your help because it's going to be very labor intense.
So
But I
besides
think-
her and you, who else would be the administrators of this new policy?
I'd like to get Lieutenant Cervello involved in this. Scott's got a good mind. He's got working on a DB. He knows practical stuff. He knows what their current stuff is. So, my other sergeants are kind of busy, but I'd like to spread the wealth with this stuff. So, but I haven't really. I've brought it up at a staff meeting, but we haven't gone forward because it hasn't really come to fruition yet.
We're going to know about it now.
Yeah.
Any other cities around that are using this that you're aware of?
Yeah, they gave me the list of, they wanted me to keep that confidential so I can,
Okay,
there are several. There are several.
You've spoken with other commanders, chiefs,
Yes.
et cetera, et cetera.
And this was a big topic up at our MACP conference up in Grand Rapids this year, was this with the whole accreditation and using companies that get you that information.
Okay.
A lot of the chiefs are kind of holding back on doing the accreditation process because they're in the same boat as we are. That I'm telling you, you feel good when you get into some of these things and you see how good your policies are compared to what some people's policies are. So there's a lot of people that they could go for working on that a little bit and having that to help themselves. So, but
Thank you.
there are several agencies in this area that do use this service.
Madam Mayor, I move the resolution authorizing the police chief to sign a subscription agreement with Lexipol LLC as approved in the 2017-2018 fiscal year budget be approved.
Support.
Anything else? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Olbrich,
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley,
Yes.
Mayor Lubes,
Yes,
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
thank you.
More questions than you thought you were going to get asked, huh?
The next item is a resolution authorizing the city clerk to sign the Help American Voter Act grant agreement. This is a grant program to use state and federal funds to acquire and replace voting systems throughout the state.
Madam Mayor, may I comment for a moment?
Okay.
Thought you were going to make
Thank
the
you.
motion.
This is an exceptional grant, and I'll tell you why. It imposes a very detailed responsibility on the clerk's office to maintain certain records, to follow certain procedures for a period of 6 years. And the reason for that is that because this involves electoral machine voting, they want to ensure that the accuracy and completeness of the process is followed, so that you have to document everything that you are involved with during the 6-year period regarding this. So I've given a memo to the city clerk's office that outlines their obligations under this contract if it is accepted. There'll be a master contract between the county and the particular contractor, and then each city will have a subcontract with that contractor. And there'll be certain requirements that are stated in the grant that have to be in that contract.
Well, the contract is for 10 years, and it
But-
includes a maintenance
Yeah,
agreement.
but the record process is 6 years in the contract, and not why that inconsistency is there, I have no idea. But I just wanted to point that out, that it's very detailed, and the process really has to be followed.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I move the resolution authorizing the city clerk to sign the Help America Vote Act grant agreement for the purchase of new voting system hardware, firmware, and software by and between the state of Michigan, Michigan Department of State, and the city of Clawson, Oakland County be approved.
Support.
Any other questions? So, City Clerk, when would the new machinery arrive?
Actually, because we were kind of delayed in this meeting, they're waiting for this grant agreement, and I said I would get it to them first thing in the morning. We have our acceptance testing scheduled for July 19th, at which time we will test all the equipment that comes in for those jurisdictions having an election in November. So there's quite a few. They've already handled the ones that might have had an August primary. We only have one community having an August primary now, but that equipment was already distributed. So now this is the second round of equipment. We'll go up there and test the equipment, make sure that it meets the standard, which is part of that agreement as well. And then once that's done, then the equipment will be delivered here.
Okay,
So it's in the works.
thank you. All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Albrecht?
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley?
Yes.
Mayor Lubes?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Horton?
Yes.
The next item is consideration of adopting a resolution authorizing the issuance of refunding bonds to refinance the city's 2008 tax general obligation improvement bonds. What we'd like to do is refinance the bonds we presently have related to reconstructing, rehabbing, repairing, and improving streets and roads. So my understanding that the refinancing of this bond will not incur any costs to the city, but in fact allow us additional monies to repair more sidewalks. Is that right, Mr. Pollack?
It will decrease the interest payments that we have on the existing bonds. We had the 3 series that we started back in 2007. Our bond attorney and advisor are constantly analyzing bonds that we have outstanding, and when they see an opportunity to save taxpayers' interest, they always bring it to my attention. Councilmember Albrecht did send me some questions prior to the meeting tonight, and I'd be happy to go through those if you want, if you'd like me to. He had some very good questions that just kind of gives some analysis of this refunding. The initial 2008 bond issue total, this was a $6,250,000 bond. It was one in the 3 series that we issued. The initial rate of bond interest ranged from anywhere from 3.5% to 3.85%. The outstanding bond debt currently is $4,440,000. The current monthly annual payments, which currently vary, it's around $443,000 per year, and our repayments are structured in that it keeps our debt around the same amount. And then actually, as I had mentioned with the sidewalk presentation last council meeting, it's decreasing now because our interest payments are dropping and values are going up. So the amount we have to levy is lower. But the maximum amount is, there's $1,077,000 payment in 2027, and it's because other bonds that we have will expire by then. The total cost of refunding, and that includes the bond financing, the legal and underwriting, is estimated at $81,000. And I know that sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but we recoup that when we refund bonds because the interest savings on top of the additional cost to do this ends up saving us money. The new issuance they estimate to be about $4,215,000, and the reason it's lower is right now bonds are selling at a premium in the bond market, so we actually need less money to pay off the existing debt. The estimated forecast of interest rate for these bonds would be 2.56%, so you can see we're close to 1% interest lower, and that's going to estimate savings of about $22,000 a year than what they are right now. So the overall impact is around, I think, present value is around $220,000, but over the term of the repayments is around $250,000 in savings in interest payments. So this is the 3rd refunding bond we've been able to do, and each one of these has saved us money in the long run. So it's just more, good news as far as debt goes, because we're able to decrease the debt. And one of the items that we would utilize additional money for, as the mayor stated, would be sidewalks, infrastructure, anything we can do with existing millage where we don't have to go to the voters that we can expand, we'll certainly take a look at, and that'll be before council each budget year. But the impact there's actually no impact on our ability to obtain future funding, and there's no impact on our current bond rating. And the total millage impact of the refunding is 0.07 mils per year. So those are questions Matt had asked prior to the meeting that thankfully Paul was in the office late today. I would have had to dig through a document that even as a finance person is very difficult to decipher, and I didn't want to send that to him and have him try and figure it out. So Paul graciously answered each one of these questions that Matt posed in a simple, easy to understand way. So I thanked him for getting that to me so quickly. But yeah, these are, I mean, it may seem fairly common, and it has been for us, but each time we get one of these, it's kind of their job to keep an eye out in the market, and it does save us interest money, which, like I say, when you're paying the debt anyway, if you can save a couple $100,000 in interest, it's a great thing. So
Absolutely.
I agree. Thank you. Any other questions?
So total savings, Mr. Pollack, it will be around $170,000 over the course of
the overall savings when we're done will actually be the 251. The 81 that they include as costs is figured in. Okay. So our actual savings will be $250,000. Okay. So 330 if it didn't cost us anything. But
gotcha.
It's I talked to Paul I think last year. When we were considering these, and I'd actually asked him the practical question, are there communities that he deals with that say no to refunding when they recommend? And he said, yeah, and the main reason is the hassle. And to me, again, I don't consider it a hassle to save $250,000. So, and he said, believe it or not, you have big communities that just don't want to go through it. It is a lot of work on their end especially, but, that's why they get paid pretty well to do what they do. But in the end, if you can save money in the bond market, and sometimes the bond market's not favorable to refund, but right now it still is. So anytime he makes that suggestion and sends me the analysis, I put my full faith in him. And when he says $250,000 savings, I say send me the paperwork.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I move the resolution authorizing the issuance of refunding bonds to refinance the city's 2008 unlimited tax general obligation improvement bonds be approved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Woolley?
Yes.
Mayor Lubes?
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Councilmember Horton?
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht?
Yes.
The next item is a second reading and adoption of an ordinance to amend Chapter 34, our land development regulations, to update the general statement of the ordinance's purpose, to revise the procedures for issuing certificates of occupancy, to revise the procedures for site plan review, and update the schedule of regulations. And our planner is here to once again talk
only
about,
here if there are any
you.
further questions. I will
Perfect.
report that the Planning Commission set a new public hearing on the other two pieces of this for their July 25th meeting. But other than that, just here to answer any remaining questions that you might have.
So we will
Thank you.
merely just enter those pieces in after the public hearing.
Assuming all goes smoothly, yes, that would be so.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I move the proposed ordinance to amend Chapter 34, Land Development Regulations, Article 10, Zoning, by amending Division 1, 2, 4, 6, 19, and 23 to incorporate certain new definitions, to update the general statement of the ordinance's purpose, to revise the procedures for issuing certificates of occupancy, to revise the procedures for site plan review, to update the schedule of regulations for all districts in light of these amendments, to revise the schedule of obscuring wall requirements in light of these amendments, to create certain new supplemental regulations to substantially revise the provisions of the current city CC current city center CC zoning district be entered into second reading and adopted.
Support.
Are there any additional questions? All right. Yeah, I do look forward to the public hearing and consideration that the planning board may have as a result of any previous or new information. Is it 7:30 here?
Yep, their regular meeting. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Loops,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht,
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next item is a second reading and adoption of an ordinance to amend Chapter 14 dealing with animal care and treatment, establishing a new article which will declare certain actions of animals as a nuisance. Mr. Kingsep, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, there's nothing. It's a second reading. It's complete, I believe.
There were no amendments.
No amendments.
Madam Mayor, I move the proposed ordinance to amend Chapter 14, Animals, existing Article 2, Animal Care and Treatment shall be designated as Article 3, Animal Care and Treatment, and establish a new Article 2, Nuisances, which will declare certain sections of animals as a nuisance, adding Section 14(9)A through D, animal nuisances, setting forth the examples of such, and the punishment to be imposed of up to $500, be entered into second reading and adopted.
Support.
Anything else?
This will take 10 days?
Well, it depends if the clerk's office wants me to do a summary for publication rather than publishing the ordinance. Once it's published, it's effective 10 days after the publication date.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht,
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley,
Yes.
and Mayor Loops.
Yes. The next item is a request by the Clausen Lions Club to hold their 19th annual Down on Main Street Car Show. And as it so happens, we have a member of the Lions Club who initiated the initial Down on Main Street Car Show to talk to us. Councilman Aris?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now, 19 years, it's been a long go. And it's getting a little easier. I have some help with Clyde Brown, my Vice President of Operations there, and he's still taking stuff down from the parade, or from the park today and yesterday, and I saw the trucks over here unloading them, so pretty busy. But it's, not a whole lot of new stuff right now other than the different cars. I've got some irons in the fire, but I can't let you know right now what they are. And but anybody interested in sponsoring trophies, let me know. We've got registrations here at City Hall. I also have registrations for the cars, or you can go on lionsclub.org and you can download it. And this is our poster this year. Kenny Wechter, a longtime Clausen resident. He is out of the city right now, but he's been doing these posters for 19 years. He used to work at AMT, and glad to have Kenny still with me and from the JC days. So that's about it.
Thank you.
Howie, how much is it for, I mean, there's a different trophy cost for different packages, right? I mean, is it all on the website?
It's all on the website.
Okay.
And,
Okay. Does the city council do one?
well, we used to, and then
I don't know.
Each council person
comment.
submits a $25 check to Howie,
Okay.
no, Lions Club, please, not me.
to the Lions Club.
To Howie personally,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, great.
Then we're allowed free access into Down on the Main Street Car Show.
We let you walk around the streets.
I might need a ride on one of the golf carts until I heal up.
Mr. Kingsep, as a, I don't know if this should be directed to you, but as the person submitting the request, is it advisable that Mayor Pro Tem Aris abstain from voting on this
No,
matter?
he can. No, it's merely an adoption. There's no conflict.
Madam Mayor, I move the request from the Clausen Lions Club to conduct the 19th annual Down on Main Street Car Show on Saturday, August 12th, 2017 be approved, and that Main Street be closed from approximately 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. on that day.
Support.
It is a popular day. It's many of the restaurants see an increase in businesses as people stop and browse the cars and stop to eat. The Eagles Club has a corn roast on the day of, so lots of business participation and community action.
We have a lot of people coming in that date for, obviously, Woodward's a week before. And this is a week prior to that. A lot of people are coming in just for Woodward Avenue and just to see old schoolmates and visit family.
Right.
It's a good affair.
Yes, thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Olbert,
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley,
Yes.
Mayor Lubes,
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers.
Yes.
The next item is consideration of a resolution proclaiming September as Turn the Town's Teal Month in the city of Clausen. This is not a new resolution to us. It's brought to us by the Michigan Ovarian Cancer Alliance. It's a national campaign called Turn the Town's Teal. Teal is a color that's associated with ovarian cancer. What this group does to recognize or host a campaign is to tie teal ribbons around lamp posts in the downtown area of Clausen, as well as put up flyers in local businesses and pass out brochures to bring more awareness regarding ovarian cancer to the public.
Madam Mayor, I move the resolution proclaiming September 2017 as Turn the Town's Teal Month in the city of Clausen be approved.
Support.
Anything else? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Olbert,
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley,
Yes.
Mayor Lubes,
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers,
Yes.
Councilmember Horton.
Yes.
The next item looks at the bills to be paid in the next 2 weeks.
Madam Mayor, may pay the bills.
Support.
Any questions on the bills? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Woolley,
Yes.
Mayor Lubes,
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers,
Yes.
Councilmember Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Olbert.
Yes.
City Attorney's report.
No reports, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. City Manager's report.
I just wanted to mention, I apologize, I thought I had the flyer with me, but there's additional information available for the recycling carts from SACRA via the website. We have a link on our web page as well. They have what they're calling a microsite with more information as far as what can be placed in the cart. We're still on schedule, I believe, for the third week in August for the carts to be delivered in Clausen. Once again, we've got an example in City Hall here if anyone wants to take a look at it. Information is really what you can put in the cart, which is pretty much everything recyclable material wise, and the encouragement to at least give it a try before you say no. We do have some people that have said that they don't want a cart, but we're hoping that they'll at least give it a try, before they decide that they don't want it. So that information, like I say, is on the SACRA site and on the city website. That's all I had.
Any other business? On to new business. The DIA Inside Out program, which encompasses 10 art pieces throughout the city of Clausen from the Detroit Institute of Arts program, will be ending soon, about July 15th. So you have a short amount of time, 10 days left, to view any art. And the maps of where the art is located are in our city buildings. Our farmers market continues on Sundays at Clausen City Park from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Last Sunday, in honor of our pre-4th of July activities, the Detroit Art Institute Traveling Museum was there, along with inflatables and new vendors. And there are new vendors contacting the market weekly to be part of the market, so stop by on a Sunday from 9 to 1. This Saturday is Cinema in the Streets, July 8th. Games start at 6:30. The movie Night at the Museum begins at dusk. You need to bring a lawn chair or something to sit on. It's another popular family-friendly event in Clawson. It's not a program, but another event that's happening in Clawson you may see around is called Clawson Rocks. So there's a Facebook page, Clawson Rocks, ROCKS, and taking walks, riding a bike, you might find around the town hidden are rocks, painted rocks. So there is a group of people that are placing rocks around. It's been a delight for our younger population to find. They show it, share it, and replace it again. If you're interested in painting a rock or adding onto that, write Clawson Rocks on the back and go to the Facebook page for more information. It's simply called Clawson Rocks. And the rocks are about this big. Not in the sidewalk area for anybody to trip on, but they'll be perhaps by the gazebo. A few were found inside the carnival area at the 4th of July festivities, almost like the boxes we found with the GPS hiker information. So look for Clawson Rocks. I think it's another community. It's what the community decided they wanted to do, and it's a nice surprise for each of us. I do want to thank everybody for our 4th of July activities, from the fire truck rides to the kitty parade to the water park trip to our runners, to the parade itself, the 4th of July committee, the arts and crafts, our infield area, and of course our fireworks. I was amazed this year at how many more cars populated the streets and how many parking spaces were found throughout Clawson, but all went well, and we look forward again to next year. Anything else?
Well, I wanted to add a big thank you to all of our city services and our city personnel. The police department working long, hard hours, making sure that we all stayed safe. The DPW making sure that there was a clean and safe environment, dropping off all the barricades. Our Parks and Rec department making sure that all the restrooms at the park had toilet paper and miscellaneous other items. The library for opening up the opportunity to film the parade there. I'm sure there's many more, and I appreciate all of the hard work because it's just a great event that we couldn't put on without all of the city staff's help. So thank you for allowing us to do that.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Debbie Woolley, Councilman Woolley. She worked her tail off, and if you ever know her, the week before, she's bouncing around like a rubber ball all over the city. But she made it again, and which is a good thing. Thanks,
You're
Deb.
16, so.
Yeah. Great job.
So
Thank
much
you.
your Clawson thing, so thank you very much.
All right. Any other new business?
Dave did hand me the website for recycling is SOCRA, SOCRRA, recycling, altogether.org. That's where the information on the carts is available.
Thank you. All right, the floor is open for public discussion.
Look out for the rock.
Good evening. My name is Peter Trussell. I live at 1382 Broadacre in Clawson. I've been a Clawson resident since 1991, if I recall. I'm a big runner. I've run thousands of miles, largely in the city of Clawson over the last couple of years. And I had a bit of a fall the other night. And thank you, Chief Anderson, for your officers coming to my assistance that night, helping me up, making sure that I could stand up straight after I banged my head on the ground. I understand that the city is considering alternative methods to fund sidewalk repair. And now that I've got that understanding, which I didn't have before tonight, I'm just here to encourage you to go forward with that. I recognize that will likely result in some sort of funding requirement out of the city, out of the residents, and I can tell you you'll have at least one vote, okay, in the affirmative. So I'm very much in favor of that. There is one thing, however, that is different than that, and that's just the general safety when you're running around this town or just walking around this town. There's a lot of places where pedestrians are at extreme risk, including here in downtown is one of the most dangerous intersections to cross on the light. And crossing with the light in the crosswalk is horribly, horribly dangerous if people just don't pay attention to pedestrians anymore. I know it's a very difficult thing to tackle, and I hope that somehow the council can come up with ideas, in particular with the 14 and Main intersection, where some of the ways people stop are angled, and that cuts off their view of pedestrians. And it's a danger to the pedestrians, obviously to people in their cars. They could potentially get in accidents trying to avoid hitting a pedestrian. And of course, not only do we not want people hurt, but we don't want people, God forbid, killed in this process. But it's more than just the intersections. There's places along the shopping centers and businesses where people come roaring out of the businesses, looking to get out onto 14 Mile Road or whatever street it is, and they don't pay attention at all to pedestrians. We are a forgotten few. There's not as many of us as there used to be. And I am hyper aware of cars, right, when I'm out running. But even I've been hit 4 times. Twice in Clawson, once over by the Shalom Elementary School in the crosswalk, okay? I was fortunate to bounce off the car, bounce on his hood, and come away with just some scrapes and bruises, which was kind of lucky, to say the least. But these businesses where people are coming through don't have any stop signs exiting those parking lots. They don't have speed bumps. They don't have anything that deters these people from just roaring out of the parking lot, going straight across the sidewalks. And they're generally, as an example, if they're coming out onto 14 Mile Road out of the CVS complex or strip mall there, they're looking at traffic to the left of them and not people coming from their right at all. And there's plantings there that are really nice. They look wonderful. It's a great, look, but people can't be seen. And someone's going to get killed. It's not just me. Other people have said it. I know lots of runners. I run with a large running group, and they're all terrified of running anywhere, not just Clawson. It's a area-wide, it's a nationwide problem. But I'm hoping that the council can consider solutions to this. Now, I understand there's a traffic and safety board. Is that the more appropriate venue for this discussion, or is the council the more appropriate starting point?
The Traffic and Safety Board is going to review the issues in the different locations and areas and make recommendations to council.
Okay. So should I go to one of their meetings and bring these issues to them, the specific
I think that's a good idea. Our chief is on the Traffic and Safety Board also. So
I assumed as much, yes. That's why I sat so close to him tonight. Tomorrow night, 7:30. Let's see. Am I out running then? I don't know. I'll try.
You can run here.
Okay. I can run here.
The Traffic and Safety Board,
can you
first
run with me?
Thursday at 7:30.
I just had my knee replaced. I'm not running anywhere
I know you're
real
not.
soon.
I know you're not. So, okay, I will be there then. So thank you very much for letting me bring that message to you, and I hope we can solve some of this for the safety of the residents and our visitors, too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your concern.
Thanks.
Pete, you live right there kind of, well, I won't say where, well, you said where.
It's okay, I live
But-
by 14
all
and
right,
Crooks, you can go ahead and say it.
But along Crooks Road there, just north of the,
Social Security office?
yeah, are the bushes kind of like way
Yeah.
out over the,
Actually, I tried to report that over See It, Click, Fix It, and our little app assigned it to the Royal Oak City. I don't think they're gonna do anything about it, so
Yeah,
I
I don't think
actually deleted it, and I was gonna try and put it back in there, but I don't know the address of the little duplex there, so I gotta get the address of that.
Well, Mr. Pollock, I'm guessing you can.
I'll
Do you
pass
know
it
where,
on.
do you know
Address
where,
that.
where he's talking about?
Yeah.
just got an email, well, I got a second one today from a resident who was walking with a stroller, and they had to take their stroller off the sidewalk because the bushes are out
Yeah,
over the
the-
sidewalk.
The grass is well worn right there. It's been like that for a while.
It needs to be repaired.
Yep. Yeah, they just need to trim back the bushes. It's 15 minutes with a hedge trim.
See, residents like you coming in like this, we appreciate that. That's what we got to have, because we can't see everything, and our DPW can't be all over the city.
Well, I have run every single street in Clawson in the last 12 months.
Great.
Without exception. So I can see a lot.
Well, we appreciate it.
Most of it, great. Let's be clear. Most of it's great. So
As Mayor Pro Tem Ayers says, we try to be proactive with as much as we can, but some of it is just, with eyes and ears, your eyes and ears is just, thank you.
thank you very much.
Mark, can we have like a reminder put up on, the Facebook and the website, just, people that go there to remind drivers that there are pedestrians and they need to take an extra look to the right as well.
Okay.
Some of those areas, just so that.
We do have a complete street philosophy in Clawson, and complete street references to all manners of transportation, walking, biking, vehicles. So you're right, we do need to care for each of those. All right, anyone else for public discussion? Public discussion is closed.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion and we adjourn.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Lubes,
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers,
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton,
Yes.
Councilmember Olberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley.
Thank you, everybody.